Today on this episode of Dance Studio Advertising, we're going to pull back the curtain on the enrollment engine, the critical systems that you must have if you want to grow your business in 2024 and beyond. Want more students in your dance studio? Then you're in the right place. This is Dance Studio Advertising, the only podcast committed to helping you attract, convert, and retain more students fast. So grab a notebook, get your pen, and let's get into it. Hey there, and welcome back to Dance Studio Advertising. Today, we have a really special episode. You know that I am joined by my co-founder at Dance Motion Marketing, Christian Altuve, and we are going to pull back the curtain, reveal the secret sauce of, honestly, how to grow a dance studio. Now, I know we talk about growth every single week, but this week, we are going to actually look at what we call the enrollment engine, the thing that you need to have in place if you actually want to grow your business week over week, month over month, year over year, season over season. This is how you do it. And it's the secret sauce that everybody who's got a studio with 4, 5, 6, 700 students in it knows and does, but they don't necessarily want you to know. Today, we're going to get into it. Christian, how you doing today?
I'm doing super well, Bryce. How about yourself?
You know what? I'm super excited. I've been talking to a lot of studio owners. It's a busy time of year for everybody, but the energy is high and everybody has their eye on September already, which is nothing but good news. So yeah. I'm really fired up.
Well, this is a perfect timing for this episode because really, I think the main things as we onboard a bunch of clients to get them ready for fall, I've been finding that when we talk about these enrollment systems, a lot of studios out there still have these pieces missing. Either not the complete puzzle or they have maybe only one of them working. And so I'm really excited to kind of get into and share what we call the enrollment engine and the 4 pieces that make it up. So that way we can kind of break it down and everyone, hopefully our studios that are listening to this, studio owners, you walk away with a clear understanding of, better assessing your own enrollment engine and which aspect may need some more attention and fine tuning. So that way you can have the confidence of predictability in your growth business and not just relying on those one-off events that may be unpredictable or far and few in between. So I'm really pumped to get into this one.
This is going to be awesome. And just to put this in context, some of this may sound familiar to you. You may have heard some of it before. So it may be a review, and that's completely fine. The truth is that we did not invent this methodology that we're going to share with you. We've named it, we've branded it, we've punched it up, we've dug into it, and we're going to give you some specific takeaways on how to make this work for you. But really, this comes from over 150 years of commercial data. If you run a brick and mortar service-based business that ultimately sells a luxury item, meaning it's not a loaf of bread or a gallon of gas, this is how you grow that business. And so we're just going to go for it. We're going to hit it from a high level. We're going to break down the parts individually, and then we're going to see how far we get. This is a conversation that could very well spin off into a lot of different tangents. So we'll try to keep it tight. But let's get into it. So, Christian, system number 1, what do we got?
Yeah, so number 1 is going to be having your irresistible offer. This is going to be, what is that main offer that you're going to be promoting and presenting to new students to attract them? We've seen this anywhere from like the trial class, a mini session, trial events, really summer camps, really knowing that offer is one piece of the puzzle. I'm going to go ahead and just walk through all 4.
Yeah.
The next one is your attraction system. This is how you make more people aware about that offer that you're promoting. And here in this method, we found that paid social media ads to be the most effective way that you can track things. But again, when we think about attraction, it's just like, how do you get more people to be aware of it? And a system, you can repeatedly and predictably do this. So word of mouth referrals are ways to attract people, but they don't necessarily happen at your command. So attraction system is important that you can turn on a lever when you want more of it. The next part is the follow-through system. All right, so now you have someone that is interested in your offer, you have their contact information, and without it, you can't even follow through. So getting that is important. But follow-through is your ability and your studio and team's ability to communicate, engage, and get that parent's interest into action to get them to show up into the studio, register, put that down payment, pay for that paid trial. That's really the next step. And then finally, it's the sales process. And Bryce, this is where a lot of people kind of just fall short, in my opinion.
Totally.
And this is really like the steps and the process to provide a good customer service, make a great first impression, and ultimately close the deal and get that registration. So you turn interest into a long-term client. So that's 4 pieces, and they're super important that they all work together. Bryce, like in some of these conferences, you have these really cool visuals, and you kind of explain, a few different fictitious studios where one of the 4 systems is broken and what it impacts. So do you want to walk through some of those?
Yeah, so we're doing this without the visuals today, but you can probably picture how this might work. So let's just start at the very beginning. If you don't have a great offer, none of the rest works. All 4 of these systems build on top of each other. The attraction system builds on your offer. Follow through builds on attraction. Your ability to attract sales builds on your ability to get parents to follow through. So if you don't have a great offer, you're dead in the water. Forget it. Now, maybe you have the world's best offer and you have no way of telling anybody about it. Well, then that's where all the momentum stops for you. So cool, you've got the world's best offer and it's also the world's best kept secret. Doesn't help anybody. You're not going to get people walking through. You're not going to get trials. You're not going to make sales, period. If you have a poor follow through system, so now you have a great offer and you have an incredible attraction system. You're the best marketer that's ever been. Intuitively, you know what's going to work in every market.
Getting lots of leads.
But you're not talking to your parents. You're not engaging with them. You're not asking questions that are getting them to really invest emotionally in your studio. Then they're not going to show up for a trial, whatever the trial is, and you're not going to make sales. And fourth and finally, and this truthfully is where, as to your earlier point, I think this is where a lot of studios find themselves. They have a solid offer. They do okay at getting the word out. They're not bad at answering questions and getting parents to show up. But then they offer this amazing trial experience, first-class experience. And at the end of the session, they say, bye, maybe we'll see you soon, and wave the parent out. And they don't make sales. And so it really is... nothing that we've talked about today is rocket science. Right. None of it is secret knowledge. None of it is complicated or particularly hard to understand. It's just 4 simple parts that when you have them all working together, your business grows. And it doesn't matter if these are coming from word of mouth or referrals or walk-by traffic or paid ads. You will convert more kids at a higher rate. And because that onboarding experience is so good, you will tend to keep them and retain them for longer. Yep. Any one of these parts is missing. Any one of these parts is broken or not working as it should. Everything that comes down the line after it suffers.
Absolutely. So really having all 4 of this trained up, systematized, you got the process and it's repeatable. That's super critical. And so really, if anything, walk away knowing that all these pieces matter, even if you have a great marketing campaign going. So let's kind of look at each one in a little bit more of a zoomed in detail. Number 1, the offer. This is, again, nothing new here. I think I've been sharing in some posts that every dance studio can use the same marketing strategies, but the ones who are successful are the ones who execute it well. And I think that's where the remaining 2, 3, the steps like attraction, follow through, and sales process. But offers, it's pretty standard. Trials work. We just recently, we mentioned another podcast episode where we spent $1 million in ads. We know it works. It's the trials, free or paid. It really depends on, where you're at in your growth journey and also the demographics around you. Mini sessions, like 4 to 7 weeks long, and then trial events. These are like 3 go-to campaigns that you can run virtually at any time of year if you know how to operate it at that time. And it'll get you leads and it'll get you customers. So like having that offer is a good bait on the fishing line to get more hooks.
Yep. And just to add some color to that, keeping in mind that who that offer is geared towards and targeted to matters a lot. We see consistently that the 10 and under age bracket is it's the lowest hanging fruit. If you're 12, 13, 15 years old and you want to dance, you're probably dancing someplace. It doesn't make sense to necessarily target that group. Building an offer, I guess I'm switching into attraction already, but the really building a trial offer to get people raising their hand, low risk to them, easy to say yes to. It's obvious what the value is.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that we've seen tends to do really well.
Yeah. Quit litmus test. Your offer really, it needs to pass the 3-second test. Can you understand what it is in 3 seconds? And that's kind of where this is really closely paired to the attraction system. We highly recommend social media advertising just because we see so many gains coming from this channel. And so really it's really simple, but there's some pieces that need to happen in order for you to be able to follow through effectively. Number one, it's creating really simple ad graphics that, like I said, when you're scrolling, you get 2 seconds to get someone to understand what it is you're offering, and they need to know what's in it for me. The second thing, targeting, simple. All parents that are within a reasonable driving distance to your studio. Does not need to be more complicated than that. Don't worry about interest targetings or any other things, but
Yep. And reasonable driving distance is going to depend heavily based on where you are in the country.
totally.
If you're in rural Minnesota, and we do have a client that we work with in rural Minnesota, people are used to driving 45 minutes to get a gallon of milk from the Walmart. Like, that's not a long drive in that part of the country. If you're in Manhattan and you ask someone to drive 45 minutes, they're going to be in a literal different state.
Yeah.
And so it really does matter where you are. And this just goes back to I think a little bit of common sense, which is like, how far would you be willing to drive for something?
Yeah.
That's going to change pretty dramatically based on where you are.
Yeah. It is common sense, but it's definitely worth punctuating, because this morning I was drinking my coffee and I got an advertisement for a dance studio that's in Houston. I live in Los Angeles. How that ad reached me, I don't know. I almost commented on it, letting them know. If I see it again on my newsfeed, and if you're that Houston dance studio, you see a comment from Christian Altuve, know that you are well outside a reasonable driving distance right now. Happens more often than you think. But finally, and you're going to notice, I'm already noticing a theme as we talk this out loud, is there's the 4 pillars, but then there's these like interlinking components in between, right? So just because you have great ads running, your ability to follow through relies on getting a name, email, and phone number so that you can actually text them, call them. If you're running ads to Messenger, if you're running ads to your Jackrabbit registration page, or to go get more likes on Facebook, you're pouring money down the drain. You need to build your list. Mm-hmm. And so your attraction system should ultimately arrive at a destination that we call landing pages, with a simple form to collect name, email, phone number at a minimum, so a parent can claim that trial, claim that mini session, get more info. That will set you up for success for number 3, which is follow through.
Yeah. So the attraction system to me is the most interesting because it feels the most intimidating. And I think a lot of, I know, because I had a conversation this morning with the studio owner, and she said, well, why can't I do the ads on my own? I said, well, you absolutely can. In fact, we have a video up on YouTube right now that talks you through exactly how we build ads, and it's free. And we share our secret sauce because, like Christian said, it's not secret knowledge. It's just about doing it well. And some people can and some people won't. But she said to me, well, doesn't it change all the time? And I'm like, yeah, Facebook updates things from time to time, and Instagram changes their, the layout or where that one button is, or does it come checked default, or do you have to check it manually or whatever? But ultimately that's superficial. The foundations of an attraction system just don't change.
Right.
And I think that the biggest thing that you can take away is something that Christian has already said, and just want to punctuate it again. You're in business with Facebook, with Instagram, to grow your studio. They actually have a vested interest in your success. Why? Because if you spend money on advertising and it works, guess what you're going to do next month? You're going to spend more money on advertising. Right? So the goal here for them is to make sure that you're successful. And so it's not about, and I've heard this before and I've seen it at conferences, other marketers, gurus talking about it. It's not about beating Facebook. You're in business with them.
Correct.
Collaborate, use their algorithm, think about what it is that they're they're suggesting. Use their targeting and their demographics to go broad, and then trust them to find the best buyers for you. It's going to work way better than you trying to figure out the targeting, demographic, age, ethnicity, religion of the person that you're after. Let them do that. They're way smarter than you are.
Well, just to be clear, we can't target religions or ethnicities on Facebook. That would be discrimination against advertising practices. So just
it was hyperbole. It was hyperbole.
Principles are valid. Really use Facebook broadly and let the algorithm do its thing. It's smarter than us. It's a machine that engineers have programmed. It's scary good, y'all, but use it to your advantage for a dance studio. So that kind of brings us to follow through system, right? So now with the first two in place, you got a good offer. More people are discovering you. You're no longer the best kept secret. People are signing up. You're getting leads, ideally through a landing page and a form. So now you have this list of contacts, parents who are reaching out. They're like, hey, I want to take this trial, or hey, I want to sign up for this mini session. This is where follow through comes into play. You may have heard follow up. We've coined follow through because we want to follow through and get to that intended action, which is registration and filling up your classes. And so really here, like briefly, you want to be able to text and have a text enabled platform. Parents, I think email these days has become very cluttered, and we hear from all the time, parents don't read emails, especially all that recital information that you work so hard to put out. And so texting is really like a powerful way to connect and provide a convenient communication channel. But really here, I think the technology is the least important part. It's more about your conversational abilities to get a parent to go from interest to inspired action. And Bryce, what do you think are some of the things that get in the way of this particular goal?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. This could be its own episode, to be completely honest, because it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
It's simple, but not easy. And I think a lot of studio owners candidly get in their own head when they're not standing in front of someone having a conversation. So you've been born witness to being in a studio with one of our clients, and a parent walks in, and it's just the most natural thing in the world to help them figure out what's the right class for their kid, what day, what time, what's it cost, all the things. And it's effortless and it's easy. But as soon as you take that and put it in a digital format, I think a lot of us get in our heads about that. And it's like we overcomplicate it because we have the ability to copy and paste. We make things way longer and way more complicated than they need to be. And that's what I think sort of gets in the way of it. It's just be conversational, just be a human being, just chat with a parent the way you would talk with your, a sibling or a best friend or a parent via text. Just be normal. Don't make it weird. Don't make it weird.
I mean, it's really true. And I think we should definitely go to create an episode around this. But I think the main thing I want studios owners listening to this to take away is the first two pieces. It's all like the marketing technical stuff. But once the follow through system, this is your beginning of how parents perceive your customer experience. And this is where we really want to shine through and where you can set yourself apart from every other business in your area. And I think the most common knee-jerk reaction that I see where studios who failed at this part don't succeed with lead generation or ads is when they get a lead and then they immediately send them, okay, here's a link to go register. Without talking, without building a relationship. This is the foundational and the beginning of that relationship that you're building with a potential customer who could be with you for 10 years and be a $50,000 opportunity for your business. And this is, again, we say this all the time, it's getting delegated away too quickly, where studios are losing track of how the conversations are going and putting people in place that may not have the best customer service, customer experience skills. And this is really where it all begins. And again, we can beat this drum a while, but I think that's as far as we'll get for this particular episode, because we do have a lot of formulas and frameworks for how to handle this part of the conversation. But
Yeah, and some of these are free. We can figure out how to get them out to listeners on the podcast. We do have a free Facebook group that's called the Dance Studio Business Accelerator. Is that what it's called?
for today, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget what it's called. It's been a minute. But we do have these resources available for free in there. We can figure out how to get these out. But really, the short and the long is just guide the conversation forward. That's it. If you do nothing else, in addition to overwhelming parents with too much information, the other thing that we see is not showing them the next step.
Yeah.
And very simply, what I mean by that is parents we like to send a text. And we see this because we see all of our clients' conversations with their leads and soon to be customers. And the parent will text me like, "Hey, do you have a class for 4-year-olds on Thursday?" And the studio owner will write back, "Yep." And it's like, that's not helpful, like, let's guide the conversation. Yes, we do. Does she have dance experience? Are you looking for early during the day, in the evening, whatever? Just guide the conversation. And if you do that, like you would with a friend or with anybody else, you're going to find a much higher degree of success than not. So,
yep. Absolutely.
But
that definitely leads to dead-end conversations. Those kind of responses lead to dead-end conversations. You always want to present the next step, ask the next question, and really guide that parent along.
Totally. And we should do an episode on follow-up, because it is where a lot of studio owners just blow it. They just drop the ball and then wonder why it's not, my marketing doesn't work for me. And it's like, no, follow through isn't working for you, but different topic for a different day for sure. Last one.
But not least, it is the sales process, right? So if you've done the prior 3 well, you're doing good. You're getting leads at a good cost through Facebook ads, social media ads. You're getting people to talk with you and show up for that offer. The sales process is all around, I think, the moment someone shows up for the first time. And we actually just finished doing a big series to our clients in the group, and I can give some of the nuggets away. But again, this is where that white glove customer service needs to be ready. Your team needs to be involved. You've done so much work, right? Especially if you're part of a marketing agency, you're spending money on Facebook ads. You don't want to neglect the sale that happens in person, because all that prior work kind of goes to waste, and it could leave, in some cases it has left a bad taste in a parent's mouth that shows up and they're like, wow, we expected a great trial experience, but the studio can sometimes blow it. And so let's talk about some of the key elements of what happens at the sale.
Yeah. So just to set the stage on this one, the way that I think makes the most sense when thinking about the sale and the sales process is by using an analogy that you already know and understand, and that is choreography. When it comes time to put a dance together, a number together for a show or a competition, every studio owner I know stops and sits down and says, okay, what's the music? What's the tone? What's the vibe that we're going for? And then they start thinking about the whole stage. And then they start thinking about the individual movements. And now they're casting parts. Okay, this is your part over here. You do this. Okay, this is your part over here. You do this. Training people, teaching people, and then rehearse until everybody knows the dance, can do it flawlessly. That's your sales process.
Yeah.
That's it.
That sounds like a lot of work, and it is. And it ain't easy. Like, growing a studio ain't easy, but it is absolutely a choreography. And I think oftentimes studios don't even have it choreographed. And so therefore they don't even know what to rehearse, or there's no rehearsal happening.
Yep.
So from a high level process perspective, there's some frameworks that we just finished walking through our clients. Number one is preparation, right? How are you and your team preparing for new families who are coming to visit, and clarifying your roles on who is going to be the primary point of contact for this client experience, whether it's the owner, whether it's another staff member. You need to prepare that and have that ready. Next is how to make that entrance memorable. So this is, again, you only have one chance to make a first impression. You want to make that first entrance memorable. Lots of different ways you can do that, but just think of it as simple as greeting the person by name and the student, and because you're expecting them to come. If you have your follow through system, you have an appointment on the calendar, you have the name of the student that's coming, what class, who the teacher is, all the information is available, and you should be having the team ready to greet that family at the door by name. Don't just let them walk in and wander around. Like, be there to present it. And then, once the child is in class, we have what we call our Parent Connect formula, where it's just a few simple questions that you can ask and engage a parent while their child is in class. And it's going to uncover insights for you to make that informed recommendation on what program is going to be a good fit. And then ultimately, it's all about closing that deal. We have some tactics of like having an irresistible show up offer on the spot. But really, that's like the simplest thing you can do is welcome them, talk to them, get curious about who they are, and make an informed recommendation about what's going to be a good fit for their child moving forward.
Yeah, that greeting them by name is a big one. And just, I love stories because I think it contextualizes these ideas. I was just in Chicago last week, and I was working out of a co-working space, and I had called ahead to find out, hey, do you guys do day rates or whatever? And just asked some questions. Where are you located? How do I get in? All the things. And when I walked into the space, I just came up the stairs, and a woman came out from around the corner, and she says, "Hi, Bryce." And I was shocked. I was like, "Hi, how do you know who I am? Like, we've never met." And it turns out, and I'm not saying that this is the level of research that you need to do, but here's what they did. And I just want to share it with you because it blew my grid. It really did. Once she knew my name, first and last, she went on LinkedIn. She looked at my picture to understand what I looked like so that when I walked in, she could greet me with confidence by my first name.
Wow.
Blew my mind. Made for a really great experience. And
I want to know, how did you feel that moment where she greeted you by name?
I mean, first I felt just completely shocked, right? Like just surprised that someone knew who I was. Either they were taking a massive gamble and just guessing, or right, or she had actually done some legwork. So I felt first just like surprised, but it wasn't like a upset surprised. It was a delighted surprised. It was I'm like really, I felt valued. I felt taken care of. I felt seen. I knew that I was in good hands. I knew that if I needed anything, she was my gal. I could go to her because she had taken the time to make herself available to me. And so it really was just an incredible experience.
It's a great story because she showed you that you matter to them.
She sure did.
If you can make a parent and a new student, a new family, just feel like they matter to you and your studio, that's what they're going to gravitate. That's going to do most of the heavy lifting for them to sign up and sign that dotted line, right? If you don't, they're going to walk out. And we've had some horror stories where parents, they go through all this trouble to show up for a trial. They show up with their student. No one's there to help them into their first class, introduce them to the teacher. No one greeted them at the door. They're lost, clueless, trying to navigate this on their own. And did you think they signed up? No. And it's usually if you miss that first chance, you won't get a second one. Very rarely will parents offer you, because there's other options available. And so this is really where the execution, that choreography, and that rehearsal makes sense. And it's going to help ultimately lead to more enrollments consistently.
Yeah, and keep in mind, too, that the research is well clear on the fact that if you give someone a positive experience, they are statistically likely to tell one other person that they've had a great experience. If you give them a bad experience, they are statistically likely to tell 10 other people about their bad experience. And so this is particularly important when we start thinking about smaller towns or tight-knit communities, whether you're knit together by nationality, ethnicity, religion, something like that, then suddenly you have a major, major problem if you get this wrong. And By the way, it can happen at any part along the way. We have seen instances where people they advertise an irresistible offer and someone comes in to try to claim it and then it's not available. Guess what? That's a bad experience.
Yep.
Like, it can happen at any point. And so this is where really building an engine, and that's the language, an enrollment engine, all the parts have to work. Any part weak, missing, broken, at best, it suffers. At worst, it falls apart completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just covered a lot here. 4 systems. Again, irresistible offer, an attraction system, the ability to follow through, and then the sales. All 4 need to be humming along for that enrollment engine to bring in new students consistently year round. So we're definitely going to do some part 2, 3, 4s, and 5s to go into everything a little bit deeper. This is what we do for all our dance motion marketing clients. We help run their social media ads. We set up their funnels. We have this simple software system that we set up with high level. It's for you to have all the tools. And like, we take all that technical setup burden off your plate. And we have the playbooks for you and your staff to be equipped to handle the sale in person. But if you're still someone who's like, I want to learn more about these guys, I want to do a little bit more of my own study and research on these, we actually have a 4-week course in partnership with Regold available for purchase. It's like a really simple $79 product. If you Google Captivate and Convert Regold on Google, it'll be one of the first links. You'll see a picture of Bryce and myself there with suits. We're not suit guys, but that's the pictures that Regold found for us. It makes us look nice and professional. But the course is called Captivate and Convert: Mastering Dance Studio Marketing for Fall Enrollment for Enrollment Success. Each session is 90 minutes long, and we go into all of it. There's worksheets. And so if you're listening and you kind of want to take this a little bit further on your own before you are considering hiring any marketing agencies, you got a great deal there, and you can spend some more time with us and the other studio owners who went through that course. And we're going to go into much more detail on what we covered today on this podcast.
Awesome. Well, that about wraps it up. We are at we try to keep these around 25, 30 minutes, and we're a little bit over that. Thanks for hanging with us. This is super valuable stuff. We're happy to give it away to you. We're on a mission, as we say, I think every week, to help 500 studio owners double their revenue, enrollment, and profit. We never said that you had to be a paying customer for us to help you do that. And so hopefully this is valuable. If it was, let us know. Find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. Let us know what you took away from this, because we want to celebrate those wins with you. Yeah. And frankly, we want to keep creating content that is valuable. So the more you interact with us, the more we can create content that helps you. So that's it for this go around. Have a great one. See you same time, same place next week.